Hey guys, welcome back. It's Joseph. Quick and simple gospel. Yeshua, Jesus, came to this earth, lived a perfect 33 years, was crucified on a cross for our sins, buried in a tomb for 3 days, and rose from the grave on the third day. We are saved through faith in Christ alone and by no other name. Amen. So good afternoon, guys. Hope you're all doing well today. Got a big show for you. A lot to talk about. Breaking news, Sean Diddy Combs acquitted of sex trafficking and racketeering, convicted on prostitution-related counts. And we're getting this news today on July 2nd. So we're going to talk about that, plus 3 other decodes today. So it should be a good show. And make sure you pay attention to the Sean Diddy Combs decode, because it's such a long decode. It's about 40 slides. I'm not going to recap the whole thing. So if you come in late, you definitely want to go back and rewatch the whole thing. But let me see how we're looking here on the screen before we get started. Hope you guys are having a great day. All right, that looks good. Just give me 1 second and we'll get started here. All right. Hello to Henry, Patrick, San Juana, Susan, New Mom, David. Much love, everyone. Guys, do me a favor. When you come in, please hit the like button. Very much appreciated. Helps out the algorithm and helps more people find the video. And also, please hit the share button. That way we can get this out to more people. Hey, Jose. How you doing? All right, guys. We got a lot to talk about. So we'll go ahead and get started. Alright guys, just give me a second to get all set up, and then we'll get going. Alright guys, I've been working on this story ever since last year. So, got a lot to talk about. Here we go. Sean Diddy Combs acquitted of sex trafficking and racketeering, convicted on prostitution-related counts. This article from today, July 2nd. Sean Diddy Combs was found guilty Wednesday of transportation to engage in prostitution in his federal trial in New York, but the music mogul was acquitted of the more severe charges of racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking. Combs was convicted of 2 counts of the prostitution-related charge. Each count carries a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison. Yeah, new mom. I'm not monetized, so there's no way to send a super chat. But if you want to help out, that's very much appreciated. I have links in the description and the comments of every video after the fact. So they're not on this video yet, but they will be when I'm done. So thank you for wanting to help out. I appreciate it. But yeah, I'm not monetized. All right, guys. Here we go. We're going to break this down all by the numbers using gematria, which is simply letters as numerals. And once you learn the simple code of coding letters into numbers, you can see right through the scripted coded news every day. So we're going to start with the day the trial began, with jury selection. It says Sean Diddy Combs' trial gets underway with jury selection. That was on May 5th, okay? And I pointed out back then that the trial began with jury selection on May 5th, 2025. That was 666 months after Diddy was born. November 4th, 1969, he was born, and the trial began 666 months after he was born. What do you think of that? Is that a coincidence, right? Look at that. I mean, that right there deserves a like and a share. Okay? And one of the bigger charges was for sex trafficking, right? Well, look at the gematria of sex trafficking. It equals 666. I mean, what are the odds? The trial for sex trafficking, which equals 666, begins 666 months after he was born, right? And notice it began on May 5th, which is 5-5. Satan equals 55. And Diddy is 55 years old when the trial began. See how Satan equals 55? To go with the 666, right? Okay. So it began on 5-5 at the age of 55, and Satan equals 55, and he was 666 months old, and sex trafficking equals 666. But wait, there's more. Combs has spent the last 6 weeks on trial in the Southern District of New York as the government seeks to prove that he was at the helm of a criminal enterprise. Well, notice how they highlight criminal enterprise? That equals 666, and the same cipher as sex trafficking, and New York equals 666. Wow. What are the odds? And again, trial began when he was 666 months old. Pretty undeniable. Now, for more things that are undeniable, Sean Diddy Combs' arrest, freak-offs at center of sex trafficking racketeering charges. See how they highlight freak-offs? Well, what are the odds? That's a perfect match to Puff Daddy in 3 out of the 4 base ciphers. Freak-offs is 87, 42, 156, like Puff Daddy. 87, 42, 156. So we get this news today. Sean Diddy Combs acquitted of sex trafficking and racketeering, convicted on prostitution-related counts. We get this news today on July 2nd, and today is 241 days after his birthday. Look at that. Sean Diddy Combs equals 241. I mean, we could end the decode right here. After those 3 slides, it's already a done deal. This is more news by the numbers, all right? Which means this whole trial was scripted. Okay? So, what are the odds of that? You know, it ends today, 241 days after his birthday. Sean Diddy Combs, 241. Now remember, this all started back on May 17th, 2024. That's when I started decoding this story. Violent Sean Combs video shows rapper abusing Cassie at hotel in 2016. And that video came out on May 17th, 2024. That was day number 138 of the year. Sean John Combs equals 138. Now here's where we start getting into the connections with Pope Francis. And believe it or not, even though Pope Francis is dead, this whole trial is still connected to Pope Francis, even after the fact, even after he died, as I'm going to show you. Okay, so pretty much the next 30 slides are all connected to Pope Francis, the Jesuits, and the Catholic Church. and you'll see how it all comes together. So the video, the date on the video is March, the famous hotel footage, the surveillance video, the one that came out here on May 17th, 2024, day number 138 of the year, when Sean John Combs is 138. So the date on that video was March 5th, 2016. That was 122 days after Diddy's birthday. Pope Francis equals 122. And obviously he was the Pope, when this happened. And when the arrest happened and everything, right? So I'm going to show you how this continues to connect to Pope Francis today. So that video was dated March 5th, 2016, 122 days after Diddy's birthday, Pope Francis 122. The date of that video, March 5th, 2016, it was 175 days before Cassie's birthday. Pope Francis is also 175. So see how that's perfectly connected to both of their birthdays with Pope Francis? 122 days from his birthday, 175 days from her birthday. Pope Francis is 122 and 175. Combs equals 52, like Pope equals 52. Sean Diddy Combs equals 56. Society of Jesus equals 56. That's the Jesuits. Pope Francis was a member of the Society of Jesus. That surveillance video was dated March 5th, 2016. That was 79 days after the Pope's birthday. Surveillance video 79, Sean Diddy Combs 79, Society of Jesus is also 79. So Diddy was arrested at the age of 54, and the person in the video is Cassandra Ventura, which equals 54, like Jesuit Order 54. And we get this news today, July 2nd, 2025, a day with 54 date numerology. 7 plus 2 plus 20 plus 25, 54. Like Jesuit Order and Cassandra Ventura, 54. He was arrested at the age of 54. So back to the surveillance video. It was dated March 5th, 2016. So March 5th is 3/5, right? And that video was dated March 5th, 2016. That's 35 weeks before Diddy's birthday. And it's on March 5th, right? 3/5. There's your 35. And it's 35 weeks before his birthday. Well, it was in a hallway. See? After the singer down a hallway. Hallway equals 35. P. Diddy equals 35. And Catholic equals 35. Pope Francis, the head of the Catholic Church, right? So one of the names he goes by, Sean Love Combs, 145, Catholic 145. Sean Love Combs, 46, Catholic 46. Sean Love Combs, 71, Catholic 71. Cassie Ventura speaks out for the first time since Diddy assault footage surfaced. We got that news on May 23rd, 2024. That was 201 days after Diddy's birthday. 201. Like the full name of the Pope, Jorge Mario Bergoglio, 201, who lived in suite number 201 at the Domus Sancti Marte, 201. Ignatius of Loyola, 201. That's the founder of the Jesuits, the Jesuit Order, 201. And let me just go to the next slide here. So my point, Cassie Ventura spoke out for the first time 201 days after Diddy's birthday. See how Pope Francis lived in suite 201? Remember Event 201? Don't forget William Henry Gates 201. They just had Preparing for Disease X, 201 weeks after COVID declared a pandemic and 201 days from Obama's birthday. But anyways, the full name of the Pope, Jorge Mario Bergoglio, 201. He lived in suite 201 at the Domus Sancti Marte, 201. Ignatius of Loyola, 201. That's the founder of the Jesuit order. The Jesuit order equals 201. Catholic Pope equals 201. The Georgia Guidestones went down 201 days from the Pope's birthday. And Pope Francis died 201 days from the death anniversary of St. Francis of Assisi, who he got his name from. So the 201, obviously a big number with the Pope. Cassie Ventura speaks out for the first time since Diddy assault footage surfaced. That was on May 23rd, 2024. That was day 144 of the year. Jesuit order equals 144. Now look at this connection between Cassie and the Pope. That hotel footage was released May 17th, 2024. That was 266 days after Cassie's birthday. And look at the gematria of Cassie. It equals 266, guys, and Pope Francis was the 266th Pope. Wow. And for the record, the Jesuit motto, Isus Hominum Salvator, also equals 266. But that's a pretty big connection to Pope Francis, right? And the footage came out May 17th, 2024. That was 28 weeks after Diddy's birthday. Diddy, 28, Sean Combs, 28, and P. Diddy is 28. What are the odds of that? I mean, Sean Combs, Diddy, and P. Diddy, they're all 28, and that footage came out 28 weeks after his birthday. And we get a verdict today, July 2nd. Today is 28 weeks after Pope Francis's birthday. How about that? Sean Combs, 28, Diddy, 28, P. Diddy, 28. That hotel footage came out May 17th, 2024. That was 152 days after the Pope's birthday. Sean Combs, 152. Sex trafficking, 152. We have all these connections to Pope Francis. And guys, do me a favor when you come in, please hit the like button. Very much appreciated. So the Pope died on 4/21. Diddy equals 4/21. And we get this news today on 7/2, 72 days after the Pope died, and he was found guilty on 2 counts. 2 counts equals 72, like Jesuit order is 72. I mean, I pointed out from the jump, this whole thing was a Jesuit ritual. What are the odds that it would end on 7/2, right? 72 days after the Pope died, when Jesuit order is 72. 2 counts, 72. He was found guilty on 2 counts, which equals 22, like Jesuits is 22. Found guilty on 2 out of 5, right? Jury finds Sean Diddy Combs guilty on 2 of 5 charges. Pope equals 25, like 2 of 5, and jury equals 25. So just in case you think this whole connection to the Pope is a coincidence, look how it still connects to Pope Francis today. Today is 197 days after Pope Francis's birthday. Sean Diddy Combs' trial equals 197. And he was convicted on the prostitution counts, right? If you include the end date, today is 198 days after Pope Francis's birthday. Prostitution counts equals 198. You couldn't script it any better. Today is 56 days before Cassie's birthday. Cassie, 56. Pope, 56. Sean Diddy Combs, 56. Society of Jesus, 56. That's the Jesuits. Today is 58 days after the trial began with the jury selection. And it's also 58 weeks after the hotel footage came out. Pope Francis equals 58, and it was a split verdict, which equals 58. And including the end date, today is 59 days after the trial began with jury selection. The judge's name, Arun Subramanian 59, Pope Francis 59 in the same cipher. So look, if you don't include the end date, it's 58 days after the trial began. Pope Francis 58. If you include the end date, it's 59. So you got the 58 and the 59, which is the gematria of Pope Francis, 58 and 59. And they actually reached a verdict yesterday on the sex trafficking charge. The only thing they couldn't reach a verdict on was the racketeering conspiracy. But anyway, see how it says here on 7/1 that they announced they had reached a partial verdict, and one of them was for the sex trafficking, right? So I just want to point out they did reach a verdict on 7/1, which was 71 days after the Pope died, and they reached the verdict on the sex trafficking, which equals 71 on 7/1, 71 days after the Pope died. Like the Society of Jesus, 71, Sean Love Combs, 71, and Catholic, 71. And the trial took place in New York, which equals 78, like Jesuit is 78. And we get this news today, 4 months and 2 days before Diddy's birthday. Like Puff Daddy 42, Freak Offs 42, Freemason and Jesuit 42. The judge's name, Judge Arun Subramanian 79, like Sean Diddy Combs and Society of Jesus 79. So remember, they did reach a verdict yesterday on 7/1, but they were unable to reach a verdict on the top charge on 7/1, which was racketeering conspiracy. And isn't it interesting that racketeering conspiracy equals 239, and they were unable to reach a verdict on that charge on 7/1, which was 239 days after Diddy's birthday. And we get this news today, 310 days after Cassie's birthday, P. Diddy equals 310. And the surveillance video came out 101 days before her birthday. Surveillance video 101, her last name Ventura 101. And the hotel footage was released 195 days after Diddy's birthday. Hotel footage 195. And if you include the end date, it's 196 days after his birthday, and surveillance video is 196. So some articles were saying hotel footage, which was 195 days after his birthday. Some articles were saying surveillance video, 196. If you include the end date, it was 196 days after his birthday. All right, guys, that's it for the Diddy stuff. If anybody would like to support the channel, here's how you can do so. Any support, very much appreciated. This is my full-time job. I am not monetized by YouTube, so any support is very much appreciated. And thank you so much to everyone who does support. But yeah, I'll hit the key points again after. Remember, I got 3 other decodes for you guys. But remember, if you're just now coming in, the trial started with jury selection on May 5th, 2025. That was 666 months after P. Diddy was born. And sex trafficking equals 666. Wow. And it started on May 5th. 5/5, Satan equals 55. And Diddy is 55 years old. And remember, they called it a criminal enterprise, which is 666. And the trial happened in New York, which is 666. And Freak Offs is a perfect match to Puff Daddy in 3 out of the 4 base ciphers. And the trial reaches a verdict today, 241 days after his birthday, when Sean Diddy Combs is 241. And this all started with the surveillance video on day 138 of the year, when Sean John Combs is 138. So if you came in late, you definitely want to go back and rewatch. I'll see what kind of a recap I'm going to do. But anyways, I got some other crazy stories for you. Donald Trump says Israel agrees to 60-day Gaza ceasefire. This is in the news on July 1st. July 1st, 7-1, right? In gematria, ceasefire equals 71. And we got this news on 7-1. What are the odds? Israel accepts Trump-led ceasefire plan that could end Gaza war within 60 days. We got this news on July 1st, 112 days before Netanyahu's birthday. Gaza war equals 112, and President Donald Trump equals 112. And there's a lot of talk about peace and safety right now. They just ended the Iran war, which I think is temporary. Long story short, guys, I think World War III is here. I actually think World War III began with Russia-Ukraine on that day with the 68 date numerology, like World War I and World War II began on 68 date numerology. I think this is all part of World War III. It's just not full-blown yet. But anyways, this whole ceasefire with Iran and the ceasefire with Gaza, it's all temporary, guys. It's all going to kick off very soon, okay? All the numbers we've been talking about, just for example, when Iran fired 181 missiles at Israel, and then Trump put out the video, he said, I've been talking about World War III for a long time, and World War III equals 181. That's just one example. You'll have to go watch all the live streams I did saying World War III is here. But anyways, there's a lot of talk about peace and safety right now. The Iran war is over, allegedly. The Gaza war is about to end. Even talks about, the Abraham Accords and maybe a two-state solution, all this stuff. Anyways, makes me think of 1 Thessalonians 5:3 about peace and safety. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. Well, I just thought it was interesting that we got this news 253 days after Netanyahu's birthday, and peace and safety equals 253. But yeah, it's not over, guys. Trust me. So, what are the odds that we got this news about a Gaza ceasefire on July 1st, 2025? That was 106 days after the last Gaza ceasefire ended on March 18th, 2025. See here, the last significant Gaza ceasefire, it ended March 18th, 2025. We got this news July 1st, 2025. 106 days later. Look at the gematria of Gaza ceasefire, 106, right? And if you think that's a coincidence, look at this. Trump to host Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House on July 7th. A Gaza ceasefire possible? Well, look at this. He's going to be at the White House, Netanyahu, July 7th, 106 days before his birthday, when Gaza ceasefire is 106. So are they both a coincidence? I don't think so. Is it a coincidence that Netanyahu is going to be at the White House on July 7th, the day leaving 177 days left in the year, when Benjamin Netanyahu is 177, like the Jesuit order and New World Order, 177. And for the record, let me just show you something. See how the mark of the beast is 177? Here, let me spell this right. Benjamin. Did I spell that right? Let's see. Benjamin. All right, Benjamin. Netan. Netan. Yahoo. Yahoo. Well, would you look at that? Fun fact for you. Benjamin Netanyahu is a perfect match to the mark of the beast, including the 177. Isn't that interesting? And don't forget, I believe that old serpent Another name for the devil, that old serpent. See how it has the 177 and the 201, like the Jesuit order? Is 177 201. Ever notice how the Vatican is shaped like a serpent? How about that? The Jesuit order, 177 201, like that old serpent. Anyways, moving on. Israel accepts Trump-led ceasefire plan that could end Gaza war within 60 days. Well, ceasefire plan equals 60, and Donald Trump equals 60. Let me take a sip of water. Hold on. Let me get caught up on the comments, too. All right. Much love to everyone in the chat. Hope you guys are having a great day. Trump tours Alligator Alcatraz Immigration Detention Center in Florida. We got this news on July 1st. Well, look at that. There's the 177 again. Alligator Alcatraz, 177. The Jesuit order, 177. Same numbers, different day, right? Alligator Alcatraz, 69. The Jesuit order, 69. Catholic Church, 69. The Jesuits served the Catholic Church, right? Well, look at that. There's the number 201. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem are visiting the facility alongside the president. The controversial detention facility is at the Dade Collier Training and Transition Airport in the Florida Everglades. Well, look at the name of the airport. Dade Collier Training and Transition Airport equals 201, like the Jesuit order, 201. So what do you know? Aren't those the numbers I just showed you, the 177 and the 201? Isn't it amazing how often those numbers are paired together? Alligator Alcatraz, 177, like the Jesuit order, and the airport that's there equals 201, like the Jesuit order. You couldn't script it any better, guys. Or maybe it's a coincidence every day, right? Remember, I just went over this, how big that number 201 was with the last Pope, Catholic Pope 201. His name, Jorge Mario Bergoglio 201. He lived in suite number 201. We had event 201 when he was the Pope. You know, William Henry Gates 201. They just had Preparing for Disease X, 201 weeks after COVID declared a pandemic and 201 days from Obama's birthday. The son of perdition, Barack Hussein Obama 201. That old serpent 201. Event 201 on 10/18. Like Luke 10:18, I beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven. Barack means lightning, bomb of the heights. Anyways, Pope's full name, 201. He lived in suite 201 at the Domus Sancti Marte, 201. Ignatius of Loyola, 201. That's the founder of the Jesuit order, which equals 201. Catholic Pope, 201. The Georgia Guidestones went down 201 days from the Pope's birthday. And Pope Francis died 201 days from the death anniversary of St. Francis of Assisi, who we got his name from. So speaking of popes, Donald Trump toured the Alligator Alcatraz with Ron DeSantis. Look at the birthday of Ron DeSantis, September 14th. That's the same birthday as Pope Leo, September 14th. And this happened 76 days before their birthday. Donald John Trump equals 76. And it was also 55 days after the Pope became the Pope, and Everglades equals 55. Now, we already talked about the 177 and the 201, right? The big Jesuit numbers. The Jesuits served the Catholic Church, right? And remember the 69 also. Remember Alligator Alcatraz, 69. The Jesuit order, 69. Catholic Church, 69 in the same cipher. Well, look at this. Look where this place is located. Okeechobee, Florida. 132, like Catholic Church, 132. Okeechobee, Florida, 246, Catholic Church, 246. I mean, wow. Oh, by the way, this also happened 246 days before the anniversary of Florida being granted statehood. So you got the 201, the 177, right? Okeechobee, Florida equals Catholic Church. Ron DeSantis has the same birthday as the Pope, right? But we're still not done because this happened on 7/1. And Catholic equals 71. Wow. The Society of Jesus, 71. That's the Jesuits. The leader of the Jesuits, Arturo Sosa, his birthday, November 12th. This happened 134 days before his birthday. Alcatraz is 134. The controversial detention facility is at the Dade Collier Training and Transition Airport. See how they highlighted detention facility? That's 191, like Society of Jesus, 191. That's the Jesuits. And the person who was with DeSantis and Trump was Kristi Noem. Her birthday, November 30th. This happened 153 days before her birthday. Jesuit Order 153. And this happened 163 days after Trump assumed office. Florida Everglades 163. What a perfect place for him to be. 163 days after taking office. In the Florida Everglades, which equals 163. All right, now for a decode that might be the decode of the week. And a lot of people didn't watch this one, probably because it's old news, but not really. It's new news, but it's an old story. Hopefully, people will watch this live stream and see how impossible these numbers are. I don't know. In my opinion, I think this is the decode of the week right here because it's so undeniable. Bryan Kohberger accepts plea deal in Idaho student murders case. We got this news on June 30th. All right, guys. Look at this. And for the record, we got this news right after the firefighters were ambushed in Idaho, right? Just interesting. But look at this, guys. You know my big number I talk about is the number 222, right? This was in the news on June 30th, okay? Bryan Kohberger accepts plea deal in Idaho student murders case. We got this news on June 30th. His birthday is November 21st. So we got this news 222 days after his birthday. He allegedly killed 4 Idaho college students, which equals 222, and Idaho equals 222. And we get this news 222 days from his birthday. I mean, come on. That's pretty crazy. And of course, order out of chaos, 222. So the murders allegedly happened on November 13th, 2022. We got this news 229 days from the anniversary of the murders. Bryan Kohberger equals 229. We got this news 144 days before his birthday. His full name, Bryan Christopher Kohberger, equals 144. Wow. And he allegedly killed University of Idaho students, which is 144, like Jesuit order is 144. The vehicle that was registered to Bryan Kohberger, residing at 1630 Northeast Valley Road, apartment number 201, Pullman, Washington. His residence, guys, was apartment 201. I mean, come on now. You're telling me all that's a coincidence? The Jesuit Order 201. Come on now. That's why I think this is the decode of the week. It's undeniable. We got the news 222 days from his birthday. 4 Idaho college students, 222 Idaho 222. It was in the news 229 days from the anniversary of the murder, Brian Kohberger 229. It was in the news 144 days before his birthday. Brian Christopher Kohberger 144, University of Idaho students 144, like Jesuit order. And remember, he lived at apartment 201. Come on now. The Jesuit order 201. But wait, there's more. Because remember, he was arrested in the Pocono Mountains, which equals 201, like the Jesuit order 201. And Pocono Mountains is also 69, like the Jesuit order 69. And remember, the address where this happened was at 1122 Society of Jesus, 1122. That's the official name of the Jesuits. And 11 plus 22 is 33, like Masonry 33. The highest degree of the Scottish Rite, the 33rd degree. Idaho murder 72, Idaho 72, Jesuit order 72. Kohberger 46, like Catholic 46. The Jesuits served the Catholic Church. We got this news on June 30th, day number 181 of the year. College students 181. And this was in the news 137 days before the anniversary of the murders, which happened on King Road, which equals 137, which is the 33rd prime number. So you put all that together, 144 days before his birthday. Brian Christopher Kohberger, 144, University of Idaho students, 144, Jesuit order 144. He lived in apartment 201, the Jesuit order 201. It was in the news 222 days after his birthday. 4 Idaho college students, 222, Idaho 222. And it was in the news 229 days from the anniversary of the murders, Brian Kohberger 229. I mean, that's impossible for all that to be a coincidence. All right, guys, let's go back to Diddy real quick. I'm not going to do the whole thing, so if you want the whole recap of Diddy, you'll have to watch the first 20 minutes. But let me give you some of the key points here. Remember, the trial began with jury selection on May 5th. That was 666 months after Diddy was born. For sex trafficking, which equals 666. Come on. It was on 5/5. Satan equals 55. He's 55 years old. They called it a criminal enterprise, 666. And the trial took place in New York, which equals 666. Freak-offs, perfect match to Puff Daddy, and 3 out of the 4. I mean, this stuff is not a coincidence. They reach a verdict today on all the counts. 241 days from his birthday. Sean Diddy Combs, 241. The surveillance video came out May 17th, 2024, day 138 of the year. Sean John Combs, 138. And then we made all these connections to Pope Francis. You'll have to go back and check them out. But yeah, pretty much the rest of the decode is all the Jesuit connections. Like Cassie Ventura spoke out for the first time 201 days after Diddy's birthday. And the video, the hotel footage was released 266 days after her birthday. Cassie, 266. That was in the time of the 266 Pope Francis. The video came out 28 weeks after Diddy's birthday. Diddy 28, P. Diddy 28, Sean Combs 28. The video came out 152 days after the Pope's birthday, like Sean Combs 152, sex trafficking 152. And then continuing with the connections to Pope Francis, today's 197 days from Pope Francis' birthday. Sean Diddy Combs trial 197. He was found guilty on the prostitution counts, which is 198, including the end date. It's 198 days from Pope Francis' birthday. But yeah, you'll have to go back if you're coming in late for the full decode. The hotel footage was released 195 days after his birthday, hotel footage 195. Or you could say surveillance video, which is 196. If you include the end date, it came out 196 days after his birthday. And if anybody wants to help out the channel, here's how you can do so. But yep, I think that was a pretty full decode. We covered Sean Diddy Combs, covered Gaza ceasefire, Trump tours alligator Alcatraz, and Brian Koberger accepts a plea deal. I think all those decodes are pretty undeniable. All right, let me turn this around. All right. Much love to Todd Rushton in the chat. Hope you're having a great day, brother. Good to see you. Much love to Kay, Vendetta, Christy, Elena, New Mom, back once again. Bob, David. Everybody in the chat, much love. Thank you, Christy. But yeah, that's what I got for you. I mean, if there's any part of this you want to share with your family and friends, I mean, I think it's all pretty undeniable, but definitely the Idaho murders. Definitely the fact that, I mean, come on, the trial began 666 months after Diddy was born, when sex trafficking is 666, and the trial took place in New York, which is 666, and they called it a criminal enterprise, which equaled 666. It started on 5/5 at the age of 55, when Satan equals 55. Freak offs is a perfect match to Puff Daddy. Today's 241 days from his birthday. Sean Diddy Combs, 241. The surveillance video came out on day 138 of the year. Sean John Combs, 138. It can't all be a coincidence, right? Especially the 666 months. I mean, come on now. Undeniable stuff. And here's a random fact, just in case you think they're not using numbers. Here's my favorite example, which I have written all over my car windows still to this day. And I passed out over 1,000 flyers around town. One of the, I won't get into it, but somebody that's been watching this channel for a long time, in a different chat yesterday, he actually accused me of working against God. To that person, if I was working against God, number one, would I do this every day, expose evil, after being on channel number 14 and telling people every single day that Jesus is coming soon? That's number one. Number two, and you can look this up, I give out my address, as you know. I did it on the slide that has the PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, Zelle. It's also got my address at the bottom. Go ahead and Google my home address. You can see my vehicle in the driveway, and you can clearly read all the writing on the windows, right? So I don't make that up. You can look it up for yourself. All over my car windows, it says Jesus is coming soon, and it says COVID was declared a pandemic March 11th, 2020, exactly 666 days after the Clade X pandemic simulation. So if I was working against God, why would I have that written all over my car, right? Where my neighbors can see it, everyone can see it. You can see it if you want to Google it. That's number two. Number three, you guys remember last year when I passed out over 1,000 flyers, those little black flyers? Do I have any? Hold on, let me see if I got one hanging around here. Remember these? This is what's written on my car. COVID was declared a pandemic March 11th, 2020, exactly 666 days after the Clade X pandemic simulation, May 15th, 2018. Right? And then what does it say there? It says Jesus is coming soon, right? Okay, so not only is this written on my car windows, but I passed out 1,000 of these locally. I went to Walmart. I went to actually multiple Walmarts. I went to Publix, Target. Um, I went to several churches. Now, the one church, I had no problem, but the church across the street, Calvary Chapel, and Todd actually reminded me of this last night. I was in his live stream. You guys remember that video where I got kicked out of the church parking lot by like 4 security guards and told them how they're not telling people the truth about the times we live in, and how they started to like take the flyers off the cars, and I kind of went off on them righteously? Yeah, if I was working against God, would I do that? So anyways, to that person, I forgive you, but that was very wild to make that accusation that I'm working against God somehow. All I do is expose evil the best way I know how, show people that, hey, your news is scripted and coded, your sports are fake, everything's fake, love not the world. If we're in the end times, and I believe the Antichrist is here, and I personally believe it's Barack Obama for many reasons. If you'll have to go watch all my videos. But if you think it's Trump or whatever, I don't blame you. He's obviously involved. Or somebody else, that's fine. We don't have to agree on who the Antichrist is. But I think a lot of us would agree that the beast system is here, the Antichrist is here. So my whole point, if that's the case, well, Jesus is coming soon. So that's the whole reason that I do this. I expose evil. I tell people we're in the end times. Jesus is coming soon. And I don't only do this online, but I do it in person with the writing. I also have these cards that my brother Patrick sent me from Australia. Let me show you some of those. I think Adam the Illusion has a bunch of these too, but Jesus saved, right? And it's got this on the back. Let's see, what other ones? Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, right? And these are great cards, by the way. Jesus loves you. Jesus paid a debt he didn't owe. You got that one. Jesus paid it all. Another good card. And we got 2 more here. King of Kings and Lord of Lords, Prince of Peace, the way, the truth, and the life, the Alpha and the Omega, Son of God. All right. And then on the back, it's got Jesus. And then one more here. Jesus changes everything. And then on the back, it says, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have everlasting life. John 3:16. So I also pass out those cards. And my wife works at a dog grooming shop, washing dogs. We've left a bunch of cards up there on the counter. We had the car worked on recently where a mobile mechanic came to the house. I gave him some cards. When we had the cable company come out and do the routers and the modem, I say routers because they they gave us 2 routers within like 3 days. They came out, gave us one, it didn't work, so they brought another one. Long story short, when the cable company guys came out, I gave them cards. And whenever I drive around and I see somebody either walking or with a homeless sign, I usually give them a $5 bill and I give them a card and I say, Jesus loves you and he's coming soon. So I pass out those cards. I've passed out 1,000 of the flyers that I made. I got the writing on the windows. I do this every day. I make videos, whether it's live or a short video. And I've been doing this for 5 years while not being monetized. So, I don't know. For anyone to say that I'm working against God, it blows my mind. I don't know what more I could be doing. This is my full-time thing, so I don't know. Anyways, I work for God, not against God. Jesus Christ is king, or if you want to call him Yeshua, that's okay. I personally don't get into the whole, the whole difference, my personal opinion, most of us were saved by the name Jesus, and, you know, I believe that God knew we were going to be saying Jesus in the end. And for me, when you start getting rid of the name Jesus and then you start taking out little pieces of the Bible, it's like you start to muddy the waters a little bit. And for me, like I said, God knows everything. He knows the end from the beginning. He knew we'd be speaking English at the end, and he knew we'd be saying Jesus. So I don't think he has a problem with it. My grandma, who raised me and took me to church every Sunday, and the one who taught me about Jesus, she never used the name Yeshua. I never heard her say it once, but I'm pretty sure she's still going to go to heaven. You know what I mean? So anyways, that's a whole different topic. And whether you think the earth is flat or round, I personally think it's flat. That's just me, because NASA lies about everything. The full name of NASA, National Aeronautics and Space Administration, equals 666. So, I don't think those are salvation issues, but, whether you agree with me on who the Antichrist is or using Jesus rather than Yeshua, which, for the record, I do use both. If you listen to my intro, I say Yeshua Jesus. So, anyways, whether you agree with me on those things or not, you should at least agree that I am working for God. Jesus is king, or Yeshua, whatever you want to say, and he's coming soon. That's the most important thing. And for the record, I do believe in a harpazo. I don't know when it is. I don't know if we're in the tribulation now, if it's already started. But I do know 1 Thessalonians 4:16-17 says we're going to be caught up in the air to meet the Lord in the clouds. So there is a harpazo. It's all about the timing. I have no clue where we're at in the timeline. But I do believe it's soon. We have everything going on in this world. All the signs are here. I don't know everything. All I know is, your news is scripted and coded, and Satan is behind it. These Jesuits, these Freemasons, they serve Satan. The whole world is controlled by them. And but ultimately, above them is God. God is really in control. But he allows these things, But yeah, all the signs are here. We're in the last days. Jesus is coming soon. And get ready. Get your houses in order. Do what you got to do. Tell people about Jesus. Expose the darkness. And that's all we can do. And pray that we're out of here soon. One way or another. I'm fine with either option. If we got raptured this week, that would be fantastic. If they came to the door and they're like, hey, you got to reject Jesus or we're going to do this to you, I'd be like, okay, let's do it. I'm fine with either option, but like I said, I do believe in a harpazo. Anyways, you guys can make your own decision on that. I don't think it's a salvation issue what you believe. As long as Jesus is number one in your life, Jesus is God, and as long as he's number one in your life and you are born again, you're good to go. Remember, you must be born again. For the record, that verse equals 11:11. I'll just look that up for you real quick. One second. A lot of people see 11:11. Jesus answered and said unto him, verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God. That equals 11:11. Isn't that neat? Let me see. There's another one. Here you go. If you like that, you'll really like this one. Luke 21:28. And when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. That equals 11:11. And also, Jesus' blood is 11:11. And don't forget, you must be born again equals 222. Daniel 2:22, he revealeth the deep and secret things. Remember, hidden codes equals 222, Armageddon 222. Acts 2:22, it's the only verse with the 3 words miracle, signs, and wonders. That's Acts 2:22. The very first verse of the Bible, Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. That equals 222. Strong's 222 is flame of God. The book of life, 222. Jesus is the truth, 222. You must be born again, 222. Key to the universe, 222. Key to the apocalypse, 222. And Jesus, the Lion of Judah, equals 222. And this all started for me back in August of 2019. I started seeing the number 222 everywhere. And I was trying to figure out why, and it led me to a thing called gematria. That's how I got into this. I was organically seeing the number 222 just months before the world changed with the Wuhan coronavirus, right? And what do you know? Wuhan coronavirus equals 222. Mandatory vaccination, 222. COVID vaccines, 222. Vaccine cards, 222. Event 201, 222. World Economic Forum, 222. Order out of chaos, 222. Antichrist system, 222. The Beast of Revelation, 222. The Antichrist, Barack Obama, equals 222. And then Obama tested positive for COVID 222 days from his birthday. And COVID was declared a national emergency 222 days from Obama's birthday. And remember, we just had player number 222 win the Squid Game. And that was the baby. Remember, the original player 222 died, and they let the baby continue on in her place. And the baby got the number 222. And the mom's name was Kim Jun-hee, which was a perfect match to Squid Game. And we were introduced to that player 222 when Squid Game Season 2 came out 222 days before Obama's birthday. Remember that? You got to go watch my Squid Game decode I did live the other day. And then remember, just in case you think it's all a coincidence, the first U.S. case of COVID was 222 days from Trump's birthday. And Trump equals 222, when Donald John Trump Sr. is 222, and Trump Organization is 222. And Trump just won the election 222 days from his birthday. And Ivana died 222 days from her birthday, and Ivana equals 222. And Trump's sister died 222 days from her birthday. And then Trump bought a Tesla to help the stock price. The stock price of Tesla that day, it opened at $222 a share. Remember, there was a 222-page lawsuit against the Trump Organization, which equals 222, where Trump took the stand 222 days from his birthday. So those are just a few examples. But imagine my surprise. All these things happen after the fact, after I was seeing the number 222 everywhere organically, starting in August of 2019. And then just months later, the world changed according to that specific number, 222. By the way, the word called is also 222 for the record. I do feel like I was called by God to do this work. Let me show you that. But yeah, guys, it's supernatural. I don't know how else to explain it. That I was seeing the number 222 before I ever heard of gematria. I didn't know what gematria was when I was seeing the number. Hold on, I got to refresh this. But how do you explain that? Everything not me, but everything that God has revealed through me over these last 5 years in connection to that number. I mean, come on, I was decoding Squid Game back in 2021, and I showed back then how it was all connected to Obama with player 456, right? And there's only been 2 winners. Remember, even though there's been 3 seasons, season 3 was like a continuation of season 2. There's only been 2 winners in Squid Game. It was 456, which is all connected to Obama. You'll have to watch the video. And player 222. So how was I decoding Squid Game back, in 2021, and now in 2025 the show ends with player 222 winning? That's just one example. How was I talking about 222 before, COVID, which is all about the 222? And then I was telling everybody how the 222 was connected to Obama and COVID, right? Then what happened in the year 2022, which is 222? Obama tested positive 222 days from his birthday. It's been confirmation after confirmation after confirmation with that number. And that's why I'm on channel number 14, right? Yeah, called is also 222. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks for hanging out. Much love to Gene Spiced in the chat. Hey, to The Branch, make sure you check him out. The Branch is putting out great stuff. Especially that Back to the Future video you did. That was great, man. But all your stuff is great. Much love, everyone in the chat. Nancy, Christy, Belga. Sorry if I missed anyone. All right, guys. I'm going to wrap it up. I think it was a pretty good show. Please share it with everyone you can. Very much appreciated. Whatever you got. Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, MySpace. Just kidding. I actually remember MySpace. I did that whole thing back in the day. I had the top 8 and all that. Simpler times back then, I wouldn't want to go back because we're close to the end. I'd rather just wrap this up. But I do feel a bit of nostalgia for things of the past. I'll admit, I actually sometimes even watch 90s commercials just to feel like I'm in a different place in time. I don't know. Even though I didn't have a great childhood, I was raised in foster care and all that stuff, it was still better than now, just because everyone wasn't addicted to their screens and the world wasn't so crazy, or maybe because I was still under mind control and fluoridated. Maybe it was bad back then, but I don't know. I often think about I was born in 91. I'm 34 years old, but I often think about growing up in the 90s and the early 2000s, and it was just so much better. Everything now is so horrible. And I think a lot of people feel that way. This world is just garbage, especially when you wake up and you realize that everything is fake. It's really hard to enjoy anything. You know what I mean? Literally everything is fake and scripted. So, yeah, I'm sure a lot of you guys feel like that too. But anyways, thanks for hanging out today. Hopefully you learned something. And please share this with everyone you can. Very much appreciated. Do me a favor on the way out. Hit the like and the share. Very much appreciated. And have a great rest of your day, guys. As always, keep looking up. We are living in the biblical end of days. What's the significance of 88? Oh man, that's a whole big topic. Big number connected to Trump. Trump equals 88. I could probably do most of it off the top of my head. But yeah, it's a big number with Trump. Usually when I talk about 88, it's in connection to him. Hold on. I'll hang out for a minute. Okay, so you know Trump just installed those 88-foot tall flagpoles at the White House, and when the flags were going up, he was talking about 88 billion in tariffs. So in gematria, Trump equals 88. The Butler event, where Trump was allegedly hit in the ear, that was 88 months after the Snoop Dogg video Lavender, where Snoop Dogg is pointing the gun at Trump. The would-be assassin Thomas Crooks, his birthday 9/20/03. That's the 8,888th prime number. You have Donnie Darko set in the year 88. The numbers on Donnie's arm add up to 88. The guy who plays Donald J. Darko is Jacob Benjamin Gyllenhaal, which equals 88. In that movie, Frank the Rabbit gets shot. The guy who plays Frank the Rabbit was born 88 days from Trump's birthday. Frank equals Donald in 3 ciphers. Rabbit equals Trump in 2 ciphers. And then in iPet Go 2, you have the rabbit with the bullet hole in the ear, remember? And Donnie Darko takes place in Middlesex, which equals 888. Like Mar-a-Lago 888, Donald J. Trump 888. COVID was declared a pandemic 888 days after Trump's calm before the storm statement. The art of the deal is 888. Back to the Future, they got to reach 88 miles per hour. Biff represents Trump. The raid on Mar-a-Lago was August 8th, 88. And Trump's number to text is 88022. And then back to the flagpoles, there were 2 88-foot tall flagpoles, right? And 88 plus 88 equals 176. Donald J. Trump 176. Back to the Future 176. Fun facts. But yeah, normally when I talk about the 88, it's in connection to Trump. Hope that helps. One of the biggest numbers I talk about with Trump is the number 88. And I'm sure there's a lot more to it that I don't even know or understand. You know, I learn stuff every day too, just like you guys. So I'm sure somebody has even more information they could give you on the number 88, but I just know that's a big number with Trump and has been for years because obviously Back to the Future with Biff is all connected to Trump, and also Donnie Darko clearly all connected to Trump, and that number 88 is such a big deal. So, yeah. It represents Trump. That's what I know. But like I said, I'm sure there's even more to it. I wish I knew everything, but I don't. Hey, there's Cody. Much love Decoding with Cody. Make sure you check him out. I'm sure Cody could tell you even more about the 88. I know Cody was live last night with AJ and Rambo was talking about the 88 with Back to the Future. But yeah. All right, guys. That's all I got. We'll wrap it up. For now, we'll have more soon, I'm sure. The news never stops, right? I've done over 10,000 decodes. Hopefully I don't have to do 10,000 more. Thank you, Belga, for the... she said I have an amazing memory, but I actually did look up the 88s. I was going to do it off the top of my head, but I looked it up. Although I probably could have got 90% of it, but yeah, I figured I'd look it up. Just so I don't miss anything. You know me, when I miss something, I kick myself for the rest of the day. You know. Okay, Cody's going to be live in a bit. All right, we'll be in there. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being part of the channel. Please hit the like and the share on the way out. Have a great rest of your day. And as always, keep looking up. We are living in the biblical end of days. Jesus is coming very soon. I can't wait. And I'll see you guys on the next video. God bless.